A couple in Kyoto, married 30 years. They're sitting at a low table with dinner between them. Neither of them has spoken for almost 10 minutes. No tension, no argument, no awkward silence. Just two people eating together in a quiet room with warm light, and neither one of them reaching for a phone or a topic to fill the space. If you walked in, you might think something was wrong. If you stayed for 20 minutes, you'd realize it was the calmest room you'd been in all week. Here's the part that matters. That silence isn't happening because they've run out of things to say. It's happening because the room was set up for it. The lighting, the table height, the absence of a screen, the meal structure. The evening before that moment, the bath, the transition from outside, the way the home closes around the day. All of it was designed over decades and centuries of Japanese domestic life to produce exactly this: a shared evening that doesn't require performance to feel connected. Most of us come home in the evening and immediately start producing. Producing conversation, producing updates, producing plans. The TV is on, the phones are out, someone is recounting their day while the other one half listens from the kitchen. By 9 o'clock, you've been in the same apartment for 3 hours, and you've never actually been in the same room. Not in the way that matters. You were both there, but the room wasn't doing anything to bring you into the same state. That's not a relationship problem. That's a room problem. In many Japanese households, not all, and this varies enormously by generation and region, the evening is structured so that shared time doesn't depend on conversation to feel shared. The room does part of the work. The sequence of the evening does part of the work. And the result is that two people can sit together in silence and it feels like togetherness, not like distance. 5 things about how the room and the evening are structured. None of them are relationship advice. All of them are about physical space and daily sequence. Here's the model that makes everything else make sense. There are 2 ways a shared evening can work. In the first model, connection is produced by the people. You talk, you share, you actively engage. The room is neutral. It's just where you happen to be while you do the connecting. If nobody talks, it feels empty. The burden of the evening's quality falls entirely on the humans. In the second model, connection is partly produced by the environment. The room is warm, low-lit, screen-free. The evening has a sequence: transition, bath, meal, tea, rest, that both people move through without needing to coordinate. The physical environment creates a shared state, and two people inside a shared state feel connected whether they're talking or not. Silence isn't emptiness, it's the room working. The first model is exhausting after a long day. The second one is restful. Most Western homes run on the first model by default because nobody designed the room or the evening to do the work. Everything falls on the conversation. The alternative isn't about being a better communicator. It's about setting up the room and the sequence so that communication isn't the only thing holding the evening together. The first thing, the evening meal at a low table. In many Japanese homes, dinner happens at a low table, a chabudai, with people sitting on cushions on the floor. This is less common in modern apartments with Western dining tables, but the practice persists in a significant number of households, and the effect is worth understanding even if you never sit on the floor. Here's the mechanism. A low table with floor seating puts everyone at the same physical level. There's no head of the table. There's no leaning back in a chair to create distance. The food is shared, placed in the center, and everyone reaches. The physical geometry is circular and close, rather than linear and separated. The adaptation doesn't require a Japanese table. It requires removing the things that create distance at dinner. The phone goes somewhere else. The TV goes off. The overhead light gets replaced by something warmer and lower. Even at a standard Western dining table, these 3 changes produce a different dinner. Not because of the conversation, but because of what the room is doing to both people's nervous systems. What changes? Dinner starts feeling like a shared activity instead of 2 people eating in proximity. The difference is subtle the first night and obvious by the end of the first week. The second thing, the bath sequence. The Japanese evening bath, the ofuro, typically happens before dinner or between dinner and sleep. In households with multiple people, the bath is often taken in sequence. One person bathes, then the next, using the same heated water. This isn't about efficiency, it's about rhythm. Here's the mechanism. When two people take a bath in sequence, both of them go through the same physical transition, from dressed and active to warm and still, at roughly the same time. By the time both people are done, they're in the same physical state: warm, clean, slowed down, in comfortable clothes. They didn't coordinate this, the sequence did it for them. The adaptation doesn't require a Japanese soaking tub. It requires that both people in a household go through a physical wind-down at roughly the same time in the evening. A shower, changing into comfortable clothes, washing the face. The specific activity matters less than the synchronization. When two people enter the last part of the evening in the same physical state, the evening feels shared even before they sit down together. What changes? The post-bath or post-shower period becomes the quietest, most connected part of the evening, without anyone having to orchestrate it. The third thing: warm, low light after dinner. In many Japanese homes, the bright overhead ceiling light gets turned off after dinner. What replaces it is warmer and lower: a floor lamp, a paper lantern, sometimes just the kitchen light spilling softly into the next room. This isn't decorative, it's functional. Here's the mechanism. Bright overhead light keeps the nervous system in daytime mode. It's activating. It makes a room feel like a place where things should be happening. Warm, low light does the opposite. It signals to both bodies in the room that the active part of the day is over. Two people sitting in warm, low light together will naturally speak more quietly, move more slowly, and feel less compelled to fill silence with activity. The room is doing the calming, not the people. The adaptation is one decision. After dinner, the overhead goes off and a warm lamp goes on. Same room, different room. Most people notice this within about 3 nights. And the person who notices it most is usually the one who is doing the most emotional work to make evenings feel connected before. The fourth thing: tea as the last shared ritual. In many Japanese households, the last thing before the evening separates into individual activities, reading, phone, sleep preparation, is a shared cup of tea. Not always green tea, sometimes hojicha or mujicha. The specific drink doesn't matter, the bracket matters. Here's the mechanism. A shared beverage at a specific point in the evening creates a verbal and physical marker. This is the last thing we do together today. Everything before it was shared evening. Everything after it is individual wind down. Without this marker, the evening doesn't have a clear shape. Two people drift apart gradually, and nobody knows when shared time ended and solo time began. With the marker, both transitions are clean. Together time has a closing ritual, and alone time has permission to begin. The adaptation is exactly this: one shared drink at roughly the same time each evening, both people present, phones away. 5 minutes. It doesn't require tea, it doesn't require conversation. It requires presence at the same table with the same warm drink at the same time. The consistency is the mechanism. What changes? Alone time in the evening stops feeling like abandonment or disconnection because it has been explicitly preceded by a moment of shared presence. This is the one that most people underestimate and then can't stop doing. The fifth thing: silence as a designed feature of the room, not a failure of the relationship. This is the one that reframes
the user
the rest.
explicitly requested
In many
no
Western
no
households,
dialogue, no voice, no
silence
talking.
between two people
Therefore,
in the
no
same
transcription
room
is needed.
triggers an automatic response. Something is wrong. We should be talking. Someone should start a topic. The silence is uncomfortable because we've been trained to read it as disconnection. In many Japanese homes, and this is shaped by housing density, by workplace exhaustion culture, by the general Japanese comfort with shared silence that has a name: ma. Silence between people who live together is treated as a feature of the evening, not a bug. Two people can read in the same room, or one can fold laundry while the other looks out the window, and nobody feels obligated to narrate. Here's the mechanism, and it's simple once you see it. When silence requires filling, the person who fills it is doing work. Emotional labor, topic generation, mood maintenance. After a full day of work, that labor is the last thing either person has energy for. When silence is allowed to exist, when the room is warm, the light is low, and nobody is expected to perform, both people rest in each other's presence instead of working at it. Presence becomes the connection, not production. The adaptation isn't cultural, it's architectural and sequential. Make the room warm, make the light low, turn off the screens. Go through the wind down at the same time. Have one shared closing ritual. After that, silence is just two people resting in the same space. You don't need to be Japanese. You need to stop asking the conversation to do all the work that the room should be doing. What changes? You stop dreading evenings where neither of you has anything to say, because those turn out to be the best ones. A few honest notes. First, Japanese domestic life is not uniformly harmonious. Japan has its own complex relationship challenges, including long work hours that leave very little shared time, a significant phenomenon of post-retirement divorce, and cultural pressures around gender roles that many Japanese people, especially women, find genuinely constraining. Presenting Japanese home life as a relationship ideal would be dishonest and exoticizing. What we've described here is a set of environmental and sequential practices, not a relationship model. Second, the shared silence that works so well in Japanese homes is partly enabled by housing density and cultural familiarity with close quarters living. In a 40 square meter apartment, you're always in each other's presence, whether you like it or not, so the culture developed comfort with it. In a larger Western home where people can retreat to separate rooms, shared silence has to be more intentional because it's not the default. Third, none of this replaces actual communication when communication is needed. Conflict, decision-making, emotional processing, these require words. What the Japanese evening structure replaces is the performance of connection, the obligatory topic generation, the "how was your day" as a ritual rather than a real question, the TV as a substitute for presence. When the room does the connecting, the conversation, when it happens, can be real instead of obligatory. Where all of this comes from. The low table, the bath sequence, the warm light, the tea ritual, none of these were designed as relationship practices. They developed from the practical constraints of Japanese housing and climate. Traditional Japanese homes were built around tatami rooms, multi-purpose spaces that served as dining room, living room, and bedroom, depending on the time of day. The chabudai, the low folding table, was the center of evening life because it could be put away when the room became a sleeping space. Sitting on the floor wasn't a choice about intimacy, it was what the architecture demanded. The ofuro tradition comes from public bathhouse culture. When private baths became standard, the ritual of sequential bathing, with shared water heated once and used by the whole family, was already established. The synchronization effect was a side product, not a goal.
Regret it later.
I know,
Evening
but
lighting
what
was
about the
historically
risks?
shaped by paper lanterns
We finally
and shoji
understand each
screens,
other, don't we?
which produced
We do.
naturally warm, diffuse
It took some
light.
time, but
When
it was
electric
worth
lighting arrived, many households preserved the habit of switching to warmer light in the evening, partly because the aesthetic had become associated with home and rest. And the comfort with silence has deep roots in Japanese social interaction, shaped by Buddhist and Shinto contemplative traditions, by the density of urban living, and by a communication culture that places high value on what doesn't need to be said. The concept of Ishin Denshin, heart-to-heart communication without words, exists, though it's less mystical than the internet makes it sound. It's mostly about familiarity and shared context, reducing the need for verbal explanation. None of these were relationship tools. They were housing solutions. That they happen to make shared evenings feel better is a side effect. And side effects that last centuries are worth paying attention to. If you do one thing after this video, do this one. Tonight, after dinner, turn off the overhead light. Turn on one warm lamp. Put both phones in another room. Sit in the same room with whoever you share your home with for 10 minutes. You don't have to talk. You don't have to do anything. Just be in the same warm, quiet, low-lit space for 10 minutes without a screen. If you live alone, do the same thing solo. The warm light, the quiet, the absence of a screen. 10 minutes. Notice what the room feels like when it's doing the work instead of you. That Kyoto couple we started with, the 30 years of marriage, the 10 minutes of silence over dinner, they weren't performing connection. They weren't avoiding it either. They were sitting in a room that had been set up through a century of housing convention to make presence feel like enough. The alternative to better conversation isn't more conversation. It's a room that makes silence feel like company. If this was useful, there's another video on the Japanese evening bath ritual, the ofuro, and why the 90-minute window before sleep matters more than the water temperature. Same principle, one step deeper.